I'm talking to you, I want to be as honest and vulnerable as I've ever been. I'm trying to be as vulnerable as I can be.
You're doing great.
But also, so let's talk about these people who resent me the most, or these people who disagree with my message.
What's it like for you to be vulnerable? What's that word even mean to you? How do you relate to that word of vulnerability?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know how I relate to the word vulnerability.
Well, you are vulnerable.
You can't put yourself out in the world like this to be seen. That is a vulnerable act. Getting into the ring with another fighter where he might kick your ass, that's vulnerable. That's intense vulnerability.
I think emotional vulnerability, nearly at every form, at every level, is basically a form of manipulation. So
maybe that's just how you experienced it growing up.
Perhaps.
Was your mother emotionally manipulative?
No, but if a girl cried in front of me, I believe she'd be trying to get an out. I don't think it's just because she feels bad. I think it's because she's trying to get a reaction from me. And I think when men cry to their wives or whatever, a lot of it is trying to inspire sympathy from her. I think a lot of emotional vulnerability to a degree
I would argue that
is all manipulation.
Like then that would indicate that in some way that you are manipulating.
We all manipulate each other.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if you're seeing manipulation in others, that must also exist in you. And I guess that's the question. Is there a way, right? Like, can you actually not be manipulating? And manipulating is a strong word. It has a negative connotation. But like in some sense, trying to control. Because one of the things that I find in this conversation, right, it's like, I mean, I actually think you're going along with my line of questioning really well. Like, you're not trying to control everything. But there is a way, right, that you have a tactic. You're trying to control things. You're trying to get away from something. You're trying to control the conversation on some level.
Of course.
But what if you gave that up?
Well, okay.
Give it up. Give it up.
I'm trying. I'm trying to be as vulnerable as possible. But when
like just the idea of it, right? Like what would happen if?
Let's do it. I'm trying my very best. Old habits die hard.
But don't worry about the result. Just ask yourself the question, like what would happen if you let go of trying to control everything? Just feel into what that would feel like.
But that goes back to the point about what vulnerability is, because I don't think humans are as emotionally incontinent as they pretend to be. And I believe that when you truly feel pain or truly feel trauma or something really bad happens to you, the result to that is usually silence. I don't think you talk very much at all. So people, you ask me, what is it like to be vulnerable? Well, to me, that's not crying. That's not... I think when anyone's doing that, 99% of the time, it's a manipulation tactic, I believe, personally. Maybe that's just my personal experience. But yeah, maybe. But I think especially with men, I think it's a manipulation tactic when they try and show too much emotion, and women do it as well. And I don't react very well to it. If someone were to sit in front of me and start bawling their eyes out, it's very hard to elicit sympathy from me for that reason. I feel like you get sympathy from me by sitting and explaining to me why something bad happened to you in a logical, calm, stoic manner. If someone starts crying in front of me, I feel like they're trying to manipulate me, and I don't buy it.
Or maybe you judge it in them because you judge that in yourself.
Perhaps. I mean, it's my human experience, right? And it's my bias.
Right.
But I'm trying to think of the very few scenarios in which I would ever cry. And I'm thinking, would it genuinely be because I feel so much pain, or if I think it could benefit me or help me? Well, would I be trying to manipulate somebody? Now, that's not something I'd ever do because it's not my personality and mental frame. But
crying is just a physiological reaction to express pain and grief that allows us to release this and to come back to homeostasis.
It's manipulation.
It's just, well, it can be.
It's don't attack me
but
anymore.
It's also a physiological response.
Oh, completely. But it's don't attack me anymore. It's I'm the victim, don't attack me anymore.
Be.
Yes, I cheated on you. Don't. It's a shield. And so when we talk about what does vulnerable mean, I feel like I'm being vulnerable now when I'm explaining things extremely logically.
You are.
That's as vulnerable as I can be. I cannot be the kind of person who's going to cry. But once again, this is my mental model. I haven't instilled.
But is that what it means, vulnerability, cry?
I guess vulnerability...
What about admitting your weaknesses?
I'll admit my weaknesses right now.
What are your weaknesses?
Then, this is so interesting, because I will tell you... No, it is, because I'll tell you I'll admit my weaknesses. Yeah. And I will. Mm-hmm. But now I have to try and identify some, because in my mental framework, I don't have weaknesses.
Right.
So now it's like, okay, I am prepared to admit where I'm weak. Where am I weak? Well, I've tried so hard for so long to make sure I'm not weak anywhere. And if I am, I've compensated so heavily in some other way, I don't fail. So it's like, where am I weak? I'm that guy who does not fail. It doesn't matter what scenario anybody's life is in. It doesn't matter if you get dumped into jail. It doesn't matter if you're going into war. It doesn't matter if you're bankrupt. Whatever it is, if someone says Tate's on your side, you feel good. Oh, Tate's here. Ah, Tate. Okay.
Yeah.
He can't even swim, but he's here to he's the lifeguard. Tate doesn't fail. I can swim, but it's an example, right? So I do not fail ever. So it's very hard for me to identify weaknesses because I feel like they've all been ruthlessly. I think I've rooted out any weakness, or I've compensated so heavily so long ago. I don't see myself as a weak person. I don't see myself as a person who can fail. People said to me in jail, "How did you handle that?" What else can I do? Not handle it? What does that look like? We're gonna bang my head on the wall like a dummy? Am I gonna have a breakdown and just be a pile of mush? All you can do is handle it. So you were talking about vulnerability. I'm being as vulnerable as I can, but I can't even honestly sit here and tell you a weakness I have, because in my mind I have no weaknesses. And perhaps that's delusion. Perhaps that's perhaps it's delusion.
Yeah,
But a useful delusion is what you're saying.
It's brutally useful.
Yeah.
And when I teach this, or when I talk about this, there's a lot of men who perhaps want to adopt it, but the mistake they make is they don't have the real world experience to back it up. I don't want people to be completely lose their minds.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that, but we're talking about the fact that I can name so many scenarios in my life where I was supposed to fail, and I did not fail. It's brutally realistic, it's brutally logical, it's built on competence, it's built on real world accolade and achievement. Mm-hmm. Everything I've ever wanted, I have achieved, and I have gotten. I have never failed at anything I've ever wanted, ever. So how am I going to wake up and say, oh, I've got this weakness, that weakness, when I have a 100% success rate? Mm-hmm. 100%. There's never a girl I wanted I didn't get. There's never a car I wanted I didn't drive. There's never a scenario where I said, I want to get through this, I didn't get through it. I've never failed. So of course I'm going to sit and say, yeah, I love to tell you my weaknesses. I can't think of any. I don't know.
Right, but
I do think that shit cap as hell. He talking about he ain't had no girl. He ain't never had a girl that he wanted he didn't get. That shit cap as hell. But I mean, I'm gonna be for real. I mean, it's just like this. Once you be on these dating apps and stuff like that, you gonna match with 10 bad. You might. I mean, I ain't gonna say 10 bad girls. If I get on Tinder right now, even if I were to show y'all the matches on my screen right now, if I match with 10 girls right now, I'm not gonna smack all of them even if I wanted to. But that's when you start to accept that, okay, I'm not getting all these girls, so I'm not gonna want them. I'm only gonna want the ones that want me. And that's when you get everything you want. You get what I'm saying here? Hey, if you like this video right here, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Also, follow me on Instagram at KM.Little with 2 E's. Also, I have a Patreon, and I also have a private community where I talk to y'all 2-3 hours every single day. It's in the link below, also with the Discord. So join the Discord.